LEGO Legacy Heroes Unboxed is a team battle RPG collecting game where you upgrade and level up different minifigures and then use them in a team of 5 to fight enemy teams. The concept is a very popular one, with games like Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes grossing over $1 billion in just a 5-year time period. The LEGO IP is one of the strongest in the world, so this game had massive amounts of potential. Unfortunately, since the global launch of the game on February 27, 2020, the game has been in a steady decline. So today we're going to be talking about what the game did right and what the game did wrong to get it to where it is now. So let's get started. Overall, LEGO Legacy is a well-polished and amazing-looking game. It has some of the best graphics I've seen in any mobile game, at least as far as accuracy to the source material goes. Everything you see in the game, from the minifigures to the main hub to the sets, are all rendered in a virtual LEGO software piece by piece. This is most obvious during the animations for when you build a set for the first time. It looks incredible and is definitely above and beyond for a mobile game. The minifigures in the game are especially impressive, with accurate textures and weathering for all of them. Some of my personal favorites include Basil the Batlord with his incredible looking cape, Garmadon, Blacktron astronaut Dwayne, and Officer Primo. Primo is noteworthy because they actually use a sticker on his torso, because the actual minifigure was produced before LEGO printed on chess pieces and they used a sticker instead. It's that kind of attention to detail that is so impressive. Each character also has trivia, which you can unlock by upgrading the given unit. This is very well researched and of course ties the figure back into the real world. Their abilities are also very well designed, very thematic, and with some very clever names. The animations for these abilities are fantastic as well, and it is very evident that a lot of time has been put into these to not only make them look fantastic, but also fit that LEGO feel by incorporating some of that classic LEGO humor. But one of the most impressive parts of LEGO Legacy is actually its soundtrack, which you've been listening to throughout this video. Not only does this game have amazing original music, but they also have licensed music from other artists in the game. To help capture that nostalgic feel that the game strives for, songs like I Ran, Night Flight, and Lovely Day can be heard while in the main hub, and really adds a lot to the game. The music that plays during the battles is also very unique and thematic to the environments. And speaking of the environments, they look fantastic as well. They are very well designed, and you might actually start to notice a theme here. All of these environments are designed to look like the minifigures are fighting in the real world. The space battles take place inside of a computer, the forest battles are in plants, and the moon battle takes place on a piece of Swiss cheese in a kitchen, to just name a few. This ties in with the overarching story that is briefly mentioned at the beginning of the game, and then occasionally throughout some of the campaign and event battles. The story is well written and surprisingly enjoyable to read. The story is probably one of the most underrated elements of the game, and I think if it was given just a bit more attention, it could really tie the whole game together. So as you can see, at the core, LEGO Legacy is a very well-made mobile game with an incredible attention to detail. The amount of work put into the design of the game is very clear, and in my opinion, these aspects of the game are nearly perfect. Where the game falls short, however, is with the content, monetization, and marketing strategy. Since the game launched on February 27th, there have been 6 primary updates. So let's go over each of those briefly and talk about what was actually added to the game. Update number 1, the Guild Dailies and Pirates update, released on April 13th and featured some major character balance changes, node farming changes, and impactful changes to the dodge mechanic. Quite a few characters and sets were added with this update as well. For characters, we got Scarlet, Hank, Governor Tierney, and Lee Tierney. And 4 new sets were also added, however these would not become accessible until a future update. This update also saw the release of guild daily quests, the option to favorite heroes, and event previews. Overall, it was a very impactful and impressive update, as not only did they focus on the very major balance and farming changes, but they also found time to add many characters, sets, and quality of life features. Update number 2, the Brickspedition and Ninjago update, was released on May 19th and was equally as impactful as the first. This update saw a bit more fine-tuning to the character balance and farming, as well as the first major piece of content to get added to LEGO Legacy, Brickspedition. Brickspedition is a repeating playable game mode that ran every single week. Each week features 7 individual maps, one for each day, with 10 battles per map. And the rewards got better as you completed each of the maps, with day 7 of course containing the best loot as a reward for playing each day that week. Then it would reset back to map 1 at the start of the next week, and the cycle would continue. It sounds relatively straightforward, however it launched with many issues. To name a few of them, 1, the difficulty was tuned way too high. 2, the battles themselves were exactly the same each week and got extremely repetitive. 3, the rewards were very poor and did not make it worth it to actually play the game mode. And 4, Brickspedition actually punished players for improving their characters by making the battles more difficult. This led to a lot of players halting their character upgrades almost entirely to ensure that the battles did not become too difficult. Now, like I said, those are only a few of the issues with the game modes. You can imagine why it was not very popular. Since then, a lot of changes have been made, and in almost every single update since then, Brick's changes have been included as well. It has taken them a long time to get Bricks to where it is now, and while it is better, it admittedly is still not a fun game mode to play, and most players don't find it worth their time. But besides Brickspedition, they also added new characters and new sets in this update, which was great to see. The new characters were Master Wu, DigiJ, and the Great White. And for sets, we got 2 Ninjago ones, the Dojo and Jay's Cyber Dragon. DigiJ and Master Wu each had an event where you could get some tiles for the character. So while Bricks was not that popular, this was still a decent update overall. Update number 3, Summer Spook Date, released on June 18th. And in my opinion, this is where the update started to fall off. This update featured reworks for 2 previously inaccessible characters, Willa and Basil, as well as releasing Skeleton Yorick and an event where you could actually unlock Basil. Now, I did say that Willa was inaccessible, which is technically not true, but unless you were willing to spend thousands of dollars, there was no way to get her to a usable level, thus pretty much inaccessible to the average player. We also got the ability to see the top of the leaderboards with this update, which is something that honestly should have been in the game from the beginning. But besides that quality of life change, this update was pretty much just to add Yorick and Basil to the game. However, Yorick was an unboxed character, which means that if you're not willing to spend money, then you are stuck with him at 2 stars. If you aren't super familiar with the game, each character can go as high as 7 stars, and typically they need to be at least 5 or 6 to be viable. And Basil was released via a Brick Pace event, from which you could only get him to 3 stars, maybe 4 if you did not spend. So for most players, the entire update consisted of a 3-star Basil and a 2-star Yorick, both of which are completely useless at that level. Then we got update number 4, the Ghostbuster Takeover on July 21st. This update sounded amazing at the onset, but turned out to be a major disappointment. Gameloft obtained the Ghostbuster license and clearly spent a lot of time designing the characters and events, only for 99% of the player base to end up with nothing useful whatsoever. 5 Ghostbuster characters, the main 4 plus Slimer, and a Ghostbuster set, the Ecto-1, were added to the game in the form of paid events. And if you did not spend large amounts of money, you most likely ended the events with your main Ghostbuster characters at around 2 or 3 stars. Slimer, however, was released as a master event, which basically meant you had to get all of your other Ghostbuster characters to at least 5 stars to even unlock Slimer. It is estimated that it cost around $1,500 to max all of the Ghostbusters during these events. The worst part of it all though is that the team wasn't even that powerful. Fully maxed teams, like I said, cost an estimated $1,500, were losing to free-to-play teams in Arena. Most people who spent on this update ended up just sticking Slimer in their team and not using the other 4, and also not using the Ecto 1. And it's not even like they were good in the aforementioned game mode Brickspedition. In fact, it was exactly the opposite. The Ghostbusters had the highest TA, total awesomeness, in the game, which actually increased the difficulty of bricks since it scales to your top 5 TA. Overall, it was a bit of a mess, and very few players got anything from this update. It may also be worth mentioning that this update featured the release of timed quests, which, while some have been good, a lot of them have been near impossible for players to complete that aren't spending money. And recently there have been a few time quests that are literally impossible for any player to complete, but that's a whole nother topic, so let's move to update number 5. Update 5, Space Date, released on September 16th and was overall a much better update than the previous 2. This update featured reworks for just about every single space character, as well as 2 new space characters, Jens and Quincy. This update also introduced Gear 7 and level 60 into the game, going up from Gear 6 and level 50, as well as the Booster Pass. Clockwork Robot and the Alpha Centauri Outpost were also added this update. And beyond that, most of the previous Unboxed event characters were added to the stores, making them accessible for free-to-play players. Now, this update did not include any new game modes or playable content, but update number 6 was promised to be the big raid update that we'd all been waiting for, so this space update served as a great part 1 to that. Unfortunately, plans were changed and raids got delayed once again. For those that aren't aware, raids essentially are a way for an entire guild of players to work together to defeat one very powerful raid boss and get rewards for it. So this was obviously a huge piece of content that we'd all been waiting for since basically the very beginning of the game, so it was disappointing to hear that it was delayed yet again. This time, however, they were delayed with no end goal in sight. It sounded like they'd be here in early 2021, but no specific date or even month was thrown out by the dev team. Then on October 27th, update number 6, Brick or Treat went live, but without the originally planned raids, leaving this update nearly as empty as the spook date. We got 2 new characters, the Ghost and Admiral Nonsuch, the latter of which was not obtainable for most players, and some changes were made to the Master Shop as well. They also finally completed the hero filter and the Guild Quest leaderboard, which again are changes that should have been made like 6 months ago. But beyond that, there wasn't really anything else in this update. At this point, it had been nearly half a year since a new game mode was added to LEGO Legacy, with Brickspedition back in May. And just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. On November 9th, 2020, LEGO Legacy Heroes Unboxed was transferred to a completely different and smaller development team within Gameloft. This team had not only not played LEGO Legacy before, but they'd also never worked on a game in this specific genre. So there was/is a huge learning curve for the team, and they had to and still are learning everything about the game from scratch, and most likely raids and any other form of playable content is pushed back until at least a few months into 2021. So, to sum all that up, since Global launched 9 months ago, we've had a lot of paid events, Brickspedition, and a couple master events. The paid events obviously cost money to get anything good out of them, Brickspedition has had issues like I mentioned, and while the master events are probably the most fun content we've had, you can only do the battles once, which is not exactly repeatable content. So as far as new content goes, LEGO Legacy has been struggling, and some serious changes will have to be made for that to improve. Monetization is one of the biggest issues with the game, but before we get to that, let's talk about their marketing, or the lack thereof. You would expect the first LEGO RPG game to receive a decent amount of marketing, but this was in fact not the case. There have really only been 2 main marketing pushes for the game, at least as far as I'm aware. The first one was during production, where they flew out a group of content creators to their studio to make a couple of videos about the game, and the second one occurred during the Ghostbuster events, where they did more promotion for the game, and they sponsored another small group of content creators to have them make a couple videos about the game and the Ghostbusters. Beyond that, though, marketing has not been a priority at all. I have heard of an occasional Facebook ad for the game, but that's definitely strange, because I don't think their target demographic uses Facebook. There's also not been any collaboration with LEGO in terms of marketing, like involving some kind of unique set or something, or unique minifigures. This is something that LEGO has done commonly with other LEGO games, such as LEGO Tower, but not LEGO Legacy for some reason. It also seems like a missed opportunity to not try to get some marketing for the game in like Legoland. That seems like a perfect place to talk about the game with both the younger and older LEGO fans in the same place. Another similar game, Disney Sorcerer's Arena, has a lot of marketing for it in Disneyland, but LEGO Legacy does not have the same. Of course, that may be a decision on LEGO's part, but either way, promotion and marketing for the game has been minimal as a whole, which I'm sure has not helped the game. So, now let's talk about monetization. For the most part, I find that the prices for the packs or characters is not relative to the amount of content in the game. Let's take the Ghostbuster team for instance. Like we talked about earlier, the cost was somewhere around $1,500 to fully max the team. Now let's compare that to a Galactic Legend in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which was somewhere near that same price. If anything, maybe a little bit less. Now with both, you got a full team. In LEGO Legacy, you got the full Ghostbuster team, and in Galaxy of Heroes, if you spend for Galactic Legend, the money you are spending is going towards upgrading the team that is required to unlock the character, and in most cases it becomes a team that you then use the Galactic Legend with. So kind of similar, but the difference here is that the Galactic Legends are actually powerful, meta-defining characters that you can actually utilize, unlike most of the Ghostbusters. And also, there is a lot more to do with them in Galaxy of Heroes. There's Arena, Galactic War, Galactic Challenges, Grand Arena Championships, Guild Territory Battles, Guild Territory Wars, 3 unique raids, and more. Whereas in LEGO Legacy, as I mentioned, there is only Arena and Bricks, yet the price is nearly the same. Galaxy of Heroes has been around for over 6 years at this point, and there is a lot more content in that game, and as such the higher prices are more understandable, but in LEGO Legacy the cost of the characters is not relative to how good they are or how much there is to do with them in the game. And it's not like these prices are making them money, in fact it is the exact opposite. Let's take a look at some statistics from Sensor Tower. In the month of November, across both iOS and Android, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes made $12 million. And Marvel Strike Force, basically the Marvel version of these games, made $18 million. If you had to guess, how much do you think LEGO Legacy made? The answer is $90,000. Yeah, just $90K for the entire month of November. Even Disney Sorcerer's Arena, like we mentioned earlier, came out a month after LEGO Legacy and made nearly $2 million that same month. And for the record, this isn't just a one-off occasion. This has been the case for a long time now, and in fact this was a bit of a slow month for Galaxy of Heroes and Strike Force. Even in just October, Strike Force made over $22 million. But I think you see my point. The monetization strategy for LEGO Legacy has not been working. This is clearly a very lucrative subgenre of mobile gacha games, and even non-IP games do extremely well here. For instance, Dragon Champions, a game with no IP to speak of, is currently making more than double a LEGO game in the same genre. LEGO is one of the largest intellectual properties in the world, so why did the game not reach the potential that it so obviously had? Personally, I suspect the Gameloft never gave LEGO Legacy a team the size that it needed in the beginning to really get a good start. That, paired with the poor marketing strategy and the insane prices, did not help this game do well out of the gate, and as such it came to a screeching halt before it even had a chance to pick up steam. So the question that remains is, can the game recover? I sincerely hope so, but considering the fact that they have already dropped down to a smaller development team, I don't believe it is likely. But the game hasn't shut down yet, so the possibility is definitely there. Alright, well that's going to be it for this one. I decided to spend a bit more time on this video with the research, script, and editing, so I hope you all enjoyed it. But with that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.